Turn it up.
You want it louder?
Yeah.
Louder. Hi guys, I'm Michael. How you doing?
Good, how are you?
You do you? Yeah? What color are my underwear? Well, there's kids here, we can't talk about that. Look, I want to get something right out of the way. But a month and 2 months ago, a guy came up to me and said, "Your name's Ironside." I said, "Yeah." He says, "Are you any relation to Michael Ironside?" And I said, "Yeah, it's me." And he went, "Fuck, what happened to you?" And it turns out he had seen Extreme Prejudice the night before. You know, he just sort of paid his little tab on Netflix or something. And the problem with watching things like that is they don't have any dates on them. And that was 30 some odd years ago. But he was sort of like, oh. But as an explanation, I just got over 5 years, 4.5 years. I like your makeup. You know, man's got hair and he fucks with it. Look at that. Jesus. I just got over almost 5 years of cancer. This thing called follicle lymphoma. I had 18 tumors, and I did like 56 rounds of chemo and all this other stuff. And the result, I didn't even get the chemo where you lose weight. I got the chemo you put on weight. You know what I mean? Where metabolic rate went down to 0, and my immune system went down to 0, and I put on 165 to 170 pounds. And I get a cough afterwards too. So, so anyone would think that I've actually lost about 50 pounds. My wife tries to tell me that they get more for their dollar now, you know. But I've had a few people come up to me and say, "You've gotten fat," you know, and it's just a quick explanation. You know, if you come up to me and say, "I've gotten fat," I'm not gonna answer you, all right? So, you wanted to ask me some questions. I've got 2 false knees, and these things are a little short.
You want to stay standing up?
What?
You want to stay standing up?
I'll stay standing.
Okay, cool.
You sit down.
I'll get comfortable.
Yeah, what's your name?
Jamal, nice to meet you.
Jamal, yeah, stay sitting down.
Been told.
You want to ask me some questions?
Yeah, if that's cool. And just for you guys, obviously, you know that the strikes are going on, so obviously,
I can't talk about anything that's upcoming or something like that. That's,
yeah.
You know.
Or previously done.
But nobody gives a shit about what I'm going to do in the future. It's all my past stuff that everyone's kind of interested in. You know? How old are you? 16. Fuck, I got shoes on there. All right, I'm going to try sitting down here. Ah! Well, that worked out all right. You might have to help me get up. So, who's got some questions?
Yeah, we've got 2 microphones either side, if anyone wants to ask any
Well,
questions.
you can just yell it out. What's that?
What colour's your underwear?
Right now?
Yeah.
Ooh. And my wife's out shopping too. Navy blue, darling. They're easy to rinse out, you know. That's it.
Going back a few years, Michael, going back a few years, you were in an episode of the A-Team.
Actually, in the 18, that was 19, I think that was August 1983. Why I know that is because I got sober 2 months later. That was the last job I did drinking.
The cast themselves, like Dwight Schultz, Benedict, George Peppard, did you get some mix with any of them? And what
Did I get some what with them?
did you get to mix with them?
Oh yeah. Brian James, actually, who was in that show with me, he played one of my henchmen and stuff. We became very good friends. Do you remember, did anyone here know who Brian James is? Oh, you buggers. How about, what's the Harrison Ford film where they're on another planet? All of them. But I can never think when I'm at one of these things. It starts off where he's the detective and he ends up with Sean Young at the end. Blade Runner. That's Brian James. You want to talk to me about my mother? At the beginning, he's the guy that's sitting there, the first replicant. You know? Brian was sweet. He actually died. He died about 7 or 8 years ago. You know, you live long enough, you lose everybody. You know, all my buddies are sort of kicking it in. I'm 73 now. But I feel like I'm a 27-year-old inside a 55 Buick body, you know.
You've still got it.
My wife's out shopping.
Your wife's out, but I'm here.
I know. No, I really do mean that. I think youth is something that's like on the inside. It's your attitude towards life and stuff, you know? That's why I love these things. I love the fact that people are willing to play, you know? If you spend more time playing and less fighting, I think the world would be a bloody better place, you know? I'm not a violent guy. I don't believe in violence. I don't believe in guns. And I've killed like, what, 1,300 people on screen.
A lot of people, yeah. A lot of people.
I think the only one that's killed more than me is Lance Henriksen. You know? And he's a potter. Do you know Lance? Do you know who Lance Henriksen is? Yeah. He's a potter. I've got a couple of his pots. You know, he has this wonderful. He throws pots. He does ceramics and stuff. I got this huge plate that he turned out. Sweetheart of a guy. Really good artist. But give me another question. Come on.
Michael.
What?
Right. I first came across you in Scanners and V.
Yeah.
I'm sure in my head. Loved you in V.
Yeah.
Again.
Scanners was 1979. David Cronenberg.
Yes. And V was early 80s?
No, V was after I got sober. That was 1984.
That late, okay.
Yeah.
You've always played sort of tough, hard characters. At some point, did you go to your agent? If no one's going to give me, I'm a nice guy.
No, look at Donald Pleasance. I got to work with Donald Pleasance. Do you guys know who Donald Pleasance is?
Yeah.
Of course you do. Wonderful actor. I worked with him when I was very young. I was 23. And he said to me, he said, you know, he says, if you kill a dog with a shovel in this business and somebody makes money off it, all they ever want you to do is kill dogs with shovels. And that makes sense, you know, because it's not the most easy business to make money at. It's a very big gamble, and people that put their money up, they want guarantees on things. So he said, yeah, and he says, the dog may become Dame Edith Evans, and the shovel may become, you know, a lawsuit. He says, but they basically want you to play something that's been proven before. You know, he's, Donald. He also told me, he said, son, it's the circus business. And if you're really in it, you can never get the smell of elephant shit off your feet. And I've held on to that one forever. It's the absolute truth. You know, my dad used to say, I ran away and joined the circus. You know, I remember coming in, my oldest daughter's now, she's about to turn 50. I remember coming in on her. I did roofing in the summer months in Canada, where I'm from, when I was first starting out. And I was taking my boots off at the door, and she was in there with my nephew, who's about 6 months older than her, and a friend from across the street, and they were in the living room, and I was on the doorstep taking my boots off, and I was listening, and the guy from across the street said, my dad, he installs carpet. And I looked around the corner, and he was down on his knees, and he says he gets down on his knees, and he pushes it, and he staples it. And then my nephew, he said, well, my father's a roofer. He gets up on the roof, and he does this, and he does brickwork. And they turned to my daughter, and they said, what did your father do? And she says, he wears makeup in other people's clothing. And I was going to correct her, right? I went, and my sister was sitting on the stairs, and I went, you don't get to correct them, you know, that's a child. The other thing I remember from that conversation is my sister was very, very into educating her children, and she was trying to tell Aaron where babies come from about a week before that, and somehow in this conversation, Aaron came up with where babies come from. And and they said, well, where are they coming? He said, well, they come from Regina. And he said, what? He says, yeah. And he went up to the map of Canada. He says, there, right there, Regina, Saskatchewan. So he'd heard Regina and thought it was Regina. So all babies come from Regina, Saskatchewan. So I'm all over the place today, but
It's a hard conversation to follow. It's covering absolutely everything.
you never know what you're going to get. It's all rolling around in here. Another question, anybody? Up there.
I've noticed that you worked with Arnold Schwarzenegger a couple of times, and what was your favourite film? Like, what was it like working with him?
Just in terms of the questions, we can't talk about any of Michael's previous roles, unfortunately. We don't want to get him in trouble.
Sweet Chad.
We gotta keep it vague.
No, wait a second.
Gotta keep
I'm
it
a
vague.
fucking staunch union guy. We're not going to talk about any work I was involved with that's operating right now and nothing in the future. But we can talk about stuff from the past. That's allowed. I'm a staunch union guy.
Okay, if Michael says so.
So what was the question? What was it? What was it like working with?
Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Arnold's a friend. Arnold's, he speaks about 6 languages. I was really shocked when because we were on Total Recall for 6.5 months in Mexico City. And you invited me, I'll tell you, here's a great story about Arnold. My sister, I'm the oldest of 5, my sister Wendy, she was, she had to turn your fucking phone off. Sorry about that. Children, cover your ears. It's going to get salty. My sister was in the hospital in Canada, and we were down in Mexico shooting this thing at the Churubusco studios, and there was no, we didn't have cell phones in those days. You know, this is 1986, I think, or something like that. And I was over at Arnold's with his trailer, and I said, you know, I said, look, I want to nip out and grab the phone over in the production office so I can call my sister. He said, what's going on? I said, well, she's sick. He said, well, here, call her. And of course, his wife at the time was Maria, and he had one of those military kind of satellite phones, and he said, you know, he pulls this thing up, let's call your sister Wendy. So we call my sister Wendy, and I said, hey, Wendy. She goes, hey, Mike, where are you? I said, I'm in Mexico City, and so over that. And she was in the hospital in Peter, Ontario. And I said, here, I got somebody who wants to talk to you. And he goes, Wendy, you got to do this, you got to do that, you got to get the vitamin B's, you got to get going, all this stuff. And it goes on for about 20 minutes, right? And he said, here, I'll give you back your brother. And my sister says, who the fuck is that? I said, it's Arnold Schwarzenegger. She says, put him back on. But here's who Arnold was, right? We had lunch that day. And unbeknownst to me, for the next 5 days, he called my sister every bloody day to see how she was doing. You know, that's the kind of guy he is. He's a sweetheart. Well, I was always sitting one day, and he speaks all these languages, and a lawyer came in, and he had contracts, but they were in French. You know, and he was going through all these contracts, these real estate contracts that were in French or something. And he was going through them, and he stopped, and he was serving stuff. And he said, look, if you can't get this right, I'll find somebody who does. Now, you got 24 hours to get this right. Get it done. And he was speed reading in French, real estate contracts. You know, what's another moment? I had to go home for a couple of days to LA, and I came back, and I'm a member of the Academy and stuff, so we get to see films earlier. And I'd seen Field of Dreams. Do you remember the film Field of Dreams? You know, about the boy and his father and all that stuff. And I got back, and we took over this hotel in Mexico City called the Nico Hotel, beautiful big hotel. And I got back, I'd been gone a couple of days, and I got back, and I came in, and Arnold was sitting in the lobby, and all his friends and his stunt doubles, they're all kind of like walking around like dogs without a leash. They didn't know what to do, you know. And Arnold was sitting there, and he went, Mikey, Mikey. And he came up and he grabbed me, he said, did you see Field of Dreams? And I said, yeah, I've seen it. And he said, what was it you never got to say to your father? And I told him, and he told me his secret and stuff like that. And he went, ah. And then they said, now I can go to sleep. Now somebody understands. He's not what you see. When his kids were born, my wife and I, we got these little potted trees for him. We gave him trees. And about 6 months ago, he sent me a picture, and the trees are like 6 stories high now. He says, look at my kids, Mikey. You know. The neat thing about show business, you work with somebody, you get very intimate with them, and then you don't see them again for like 5 years, and then you spend 2 hours with them, and it's just like you saw them yesterday, you know. Anyway, next question. Somebody.
What were your memories of filming Top Gun?
Beg your pardon?
What was Top Gun filming like?
In general? Loud? No, look, it was wonderful. Top Gun was quite good. It was, if you see Top Gun, there's that scene where we're all sitting there, and Val Kilmer's playing with his pen. The introduction. Kelly comes in, and Tom's scared. If you look around in the master shot, you turn the camera on, master shot's a wide shot, turn around with all the guys that are sitting. At the back of that shot against the wall are all the real Top Gun pilots. That's all the real guys standing at the back. Gunner and all, you know, they all have their own call signs and stuff. When we showed the film at Paramount, when it was all done and we had the big cast and crew get together at Paramount Studios, they invited a bunch of from San Diego, a lot of the Top Gun guys up and everything. And there was about 9 of them. And we saw the film, and these guys go up and put each other's life in each other's hands every day. You know what I mean? They'd never seen what they do in 35 mil, 2 stories high on a screen before. They just go up and do it every day, right? And so after it was all over, I came out and they were all standing in a circle talking. And they all trust each other. Everyone's judgment, they trust each other, you know. And, well, that's, I can turn that one down a bit. But anyway, I walked out and I said, what'd you think? And they said, oh, that's good. And one of the guys, Gunnar, who was standing there, he'd been married and divorced, and he was married again. He had 2 new kids. And he was sitting there and he said, I think I'm going to pack it in. And they all said, okay, yeah. And we were walking away and we're heading back over to where the banquet and dinner was and stuff like that. And I saw Gunnar come. I said, Gunnar, well, I thought you were going to pack it in. He says, oh, no, I mean, I'm going to quit. And I went, quit? He says, yeah, I'm going to leave Top Gun. He says, I've never seen what I do on a daily basis. It's so close, you know, such close proximity. And I got 2 new kids. I want to be around for this, you know. The thing that blew me away is not one of the other 8 guys tried to talk him out of it. They all trust each other's judgment to the second on everything. There's a shot, Tony Scott, God love him, he's dead now, but he passed away just, I think, last year. Yeah, it's sad. But they're in the editing room. He said, Mike, come here, let me show you something. And there's a shot when we were shooting the flyby sequences and stuff. All he did, that's what they do every day, but they brought it down to below 5,000 feet so it could be in proximity to the ground and you could have a shot and see what they do. Because if it's up in the air, it doesn't look right. It's down, it has a real topographical and kind of cinematic reference to it, you know. And he was showing me the shot. So they had a Learjet where they cut the side of the Learjet out and put plexiglass in so they could roll a camera back and forth on track inside the Learjet. And then they had another plane that was flying below and another one above. So they had 3 different angles on all these flybys and stuff, plus cameras in the airplanes and the actual jets and the Tomcats. And in one shot, what you do is you call brake left, brake right. They head right at each other, like the instructor and the student. They say brake left, and then they go by and they go past each other. There's a shot that they were doing, and he said, look at this shot. And it was a shot from above. And as they went by, and he said, brake left, they both broke. And he froze it, and you look, and the 2 images melt together. They're so close. And they weren't doing anything special for the movie. This is what they do every day. And I said to him, I said, the cinematographer there, and I said, how close are they? He said, they're within a meter of each other. So when they're heading towards you, they say, brake left. They were within a meter. They do this every day. So when Gunnar saw this, he saw what he does on a daily basis. It was kind of like, I think I'm going to quit. You know, I think I'm going to hang out. I'll go pump gas or something, you know. But I was quite impressed with him. I was really quite impressed with him. You know, the difference between the movie and real life is, at Top Gun, they try to there's nobody competing. The instructors are like the best of the best, and what they want to do is they want to make everyone inclusive. They want teamwork. They don't try and put one guy against another guy and stuff like that, you know. So, The Matrix, that's your favorite film, right? Yeah, I guess. All right. Any other questions? Yes? Love your haircut.
You've been in so many amazing films in the past.
I've been in some turkeys too, you know.
But talking about good ones, are there any past projects you may have rejected or missed out on?
I actually turned down a lot of work. I really do. I'm not bragging about it, especially now that I'm getting older. The first thing I look for is writing, how creative it is, whether it's clever, whether it's bright, whether it's honest, and then whether it's something I've done before or not. You know, for example, there's a thing called Pumpkin Everything that's on the, what's that card company? So Hallmark channel, right? They sent me this script, but 2 years ago and stuff like that. And I read it, and it was some grandfather guy who runs a pumpkin store or something, and I'm reading it like, I can't do this. And my wife says, she reads everything. She says, well, let me have a look. She reads it. And when she's finished, she goes, I said, what do you think? She goes, well, I'm kind of hungry. Let's go out to dinner. So she's smart. She gets me out into a public place where I'm having dinner, right? And she says, now, Pumpkin Everything, what are you afraid of? and she knows me so well. We've been together like 4 years, you know. And I said, I don't know how to play this guy. He has no weapons. He doesn't raise his voice. He doesn't intimidate anybody. He's basically this grandfather who keeps falling down and breaking himself, you know. And I said, I don't have a point of reference for that. She said, well, maybe you should do it. Maybe you should do it so you can have that, you know, if you're afraid of something, reach for it, you know. What's the worst that can happen? And then they made the offer, and she saw the offer, and she said, fuck it, you're doing it. So, did that answer your question? Another question.
Well, how influential were your parents in installing that crazy work ethic that you have? Because you mentioned that you were roofing alongside acting and writing. That must have been like a crazy life.
I'm working class, right? I was raised in the East End of Toronto. Now it's kind of frou-frou, she sandblasted everything, right? But I was in row, well, you guys know, it's like British row housing. You know, the houses are 12 feet wide. They're all jammed in together. It was a housing project from the 40s for Colgate-Palmolive, which was the factory of the industry. And the house was 12 and a half feet wide. We call them basically shotgun houses, shotgun flats. And that term comes from you could kick the front door in and pump 2 shotgun shells in and kill everybody because there's nowhere to go because it's just a straight, and it's probably too descriptive for the children. Yeah, there was me, I'm the oldest of 5 kids, my mom and dad, my grandfather, and assortments of cats, dogs, and parakeets and shit, you know, so there was no privacy. And my dad lost his mother died when he was 7. And his father sort of sat down, who was a very well-educated man, and it broke his heart. And he sat down and started drinking and took menial jobs. And Dad was left to his own. He only had a grade 3 education, you know, but he read. He was one of these readers, right? He reads everything. And that was the ethic he put in with us. So my dad took a job at a place called Charters Press, a second job. He had a job working for the city of Toronto, fixing light bulbs, the street lights. And then he got this job at Charters, because in the old days in Canada, when you printed a book and sold it, like any kind of a novel or anything, it had to be printed in Canada. Now those rules have changed, but up until about 74. So my dad got a job at a place called Charters Press, where they print every book that comes in. So I read things like Lady Chatterley's Lover and The Brothers Karamazov and all these things when I was like 12 or 13 years old. You know, they had a rule. There was all the books at the head of the bed, at the top of the bed, on the bookshelves. My mom and dad hadn't read yet. And when they were finished with it, they put them on the floor. And if they're on the floor, you're allowed to read them. And so that kind of literary background, you know, I remember as a, it's all right, I'm being upstaged here. Another one with a great haircut, look at that. So I remember reading Lady Chatterley's Lover and coming in, I think I was about 9 or 10, and they had no rules. If it was on the floor, you could read it. And I came in and I said, what's an orgasm? What's this? And my mom said, you're gonna have to handle this one, Bob. And my dad was explaining it to me. And I remember just sort of going, oh, stop. I'll write the words down and you can tell me later. Because, I mean, 7 years old trying to explain an orgasm to a child. It was like, that's the kind of household I was in. My dad was very literate about everything. And I wrote a play when I was, that's too long a story. Anyway, I wrote a play when I was about 13, 14 years old. And a young student teacher at school that was helping me with it, she entered in a Canada-wide contest and it won first prize. And I knew nothing about this. And I came home, I had a full-time job at night from the time I was 13 until I was 20. We all had to work to help out at house, so I cleaned factories at night. And I came home from school and I had to get home, change, and get on the bus to go to work. And there was all these men with suits and hats on. Usually it's the coppers, you know, they come in and they don't take their hat off. And I thought, what the fuck are the police doing in the house? My sister said, what did you do? And I said, I didn't do nothing. You know, so she nicked my clothes from me and I got changed behind the house and I buggered off to work. And when I got home, my dad every night would get home, he would watch the news at 11 to 11:30. And at 11:30 he'd go upstairs, go to bed. Because he'd get up every day at 5:30 and go to work, you know. I got home at midnight that night from work and he was in the kitchen, the light was on. I went, fuck. I didn't do anything. So I went to my dad, I said, Dad, and he goes, Michael, I said, Dad, I didn't do anything. And he said, no, sit your ass down. He says, look, they weren't coppers. I said, what were they? He says, they were the press. He says, you wrote a play or something? And I went, oh yeah. Well, yeah, Judy Millen at school, she helped me out with this play. She says, well, she entered in a contest and won first prize. I went, oh. I said, well, what the press wanted? She says, it was a university contest. I was in grade 9 and had won first prize, right? And he said she kind of wanted to make a statement that money should be spent on kids at younger ages, not at the finished product when they're in university or graduating. Money should go into the grassroots. He says, very clever of her. He says, but it's caused a kind of controversy. He said, first prize is, I think it was either $5,700 or $6,700, right? So first prize is this amount of money, $6,700. You get a production company of your choice in Toronto to put your play on. And he said you get access to the University of Toronto's Hart House Theatre for the rest of your life. So I can go in anytime at the Hart House Theatre in Toronto's university and watch them in rehearsal or in any kind of setup in the play. And I said, wow, you know. He said, I said, so what's going to happen? He said, well, the young men that came in second or third are protesting because you're not in college. You're not in university. And I said, well, I didn't. He said, no, you haven't done anything wrong. He says, but I think there's a way out of this. I said, what? He says, you can split the money up between them. Let them have the money, and you take the second and third part of the prize, where you can get the play produced, you know, and you get to see Hart House for the rest of your life if you want. I went, okay. So he wrote up the letter, and I signed it and went off to bed. And that's what they settled for that. I always get a little emotional at this point. It was only a couple of years ago. My dad passed about 8 years ago. And I was telling this story at his funeral, and I realized my dad had never seen $6,700 in one place in his whole life. And without a blink of an eye, he said, give the money away. Wouldn't you like to see your play? You know? And wouldn't you like to be able to go to Hart House and just see how other people do things? That's the kind of household I was raised in, you know? And then when I came home from school, before I was get dressed, all those guys in the living room, in the kitchen with my mom, my little mom, 5'2" by 5'2" by 5'2". She was an absolute darling. She would sit there, and I heard her say, we can't afford to send our children anywhere physically, but we can send them everywhere in books. And I remember thinking,